Doom is a franchise that means a lot to me personally. The classic titles are comfort games for me. I used to play Doom 93 on my dad's old SNES all the time as a kid, and eventually got good enough to beat some of the levels on Nightmare despite the horrific controls the SNES version had. I'm even a part of Doom 3 enjoyers, although I do think it's the weakest of the series. Much like the reputation of Dark Souls 2, I really enjoy Doom 3's DLC Resurrection of Evil much more than I do the base game. Doom 2016, however, is really what dug me back into the franchise, and I made a habit to add that game to the list of titles I would replay every year, which, at the time, being a teenager, was a pretty slim list of titles. 2016 is easily one of the greatest reboots, if not the greatest reboot of all time, for a video game, that is, at least. Its reimagining of Doom 93 that simultaneously recreates iconic fights, levels, also accepting its own pace and style within the ethos of Doom, it's unmatched in my eyes. And this love for 2016 only turned into an obsession for Doom with Doom Eternal in 2020, a game that I would consider one of the best titles I've ever played, period. Incredible music, stunning visual style that harkens back to the originals and yet has this arcadey, thrilling energy of high-octane, blood-riddled violence that is just distilled into a perfect experience, if I would say so myself. Eternal is the perfect single-player shooter in my eyes, and it officially made me a lifelong Doomhead. I even revisit the Ancient Gods DLCs from time to time, though I don't enjoy them as much as I do the base campaign. When Doom the Dark Ages was released, I was obviously excited, a new addition of the Doom franchise that I know and love, with a distinct style helping it etch its place into history of a legendary franchise. However, I couldn't help but be afraid, seeing as there were some big changes being made to the Doom formula that modern Doom titles had already become known for. Not only would this be the first title in the series to not have legendary heavy metal artist Mick Gordon helming the game's soundtrack, but it would also be taking the glory kill system that fans had known and loved so dearly and moving it to second fiddle in place of the new parry system. Now, having not only finished Doom the Dark Ages, but 100% the game, I can happily say that even though I don't think it surpasses 2016 and Eternal for me as a whole, Doom the Dark Ages does some things better, and chooses to stand on its own 2 feet as a worthy title in the pantheon of Doom, and it will easily stand the test of time as the years come to pass. Right off the bat, I want to talk about the game's art style, which I have the most praise for. The game presents itself in an utterly stunning way. It clearly took notes from Warhammer, dark sci-fi fantasy worlds, and aesthetically it fits right in the energy that Doom brings. It's something new, fresh to the franchise, while still keeping that wild touch that Doom has always been known for. The weapons look great, they remind me of the more gothic designs from Doom 64, and in general this game seems to take a lot from Doom 64, even if it's not directly inspired. The gothic, more fantasy-inspired areas of Doom the Dark Ages will obviously be compared to the Dante's Inferno hellscape that Doom 64 was so known for, and its unnerving port that it had. And honestly, I couldn't be happier about it. Where the aesthetics of 2016 Eternal both felt like different interpretations of Doom's original style, Dark Ages taking its own corner to express itself is the perfect way to have it stand out amongst all of these great games that it needs to basically live up to. And I think it scratches a certain itch that the other two can't. This gap is even further separated by the gameplay changes that have been added. Glory kills take a back seat now, and while they're still there, they're a lot less frequent and have to be initiated by a jump. This makes way for the new parry system, which, if I'm honest, is a definite improvement to the gameplay. While it's not as cinematic as the glory kill system, it adds speed and heavy impact that this game wants to capture. As Hugo Martin said, you want to be a tank in this game versus a fighter jet in Eternal. And I know some people will find that a controversial take, but when you enter this game's flow state, when you're landing perfect parries, crushing enemies with the new melee weapons, switching between the different weapons and strafing around enemies bullet hell style, it easily becomes the best gameplay loop the modern series has. I hope future titles will be able to add and combine maybe the systems from all 3 games. If you could somehow keep the glory kills moving faster and still keeping parries and the speed and heaviness that this game has, I really think you could create an incredible Doom game by sort of taking the best of both worlds from all of these titles. The new gameplay is only exemplified by this wider level design, and that doesn't really make me too happy. I really enjoy the wide level design because it feels like it's a classic run and gun level from Doom, but they can drag on a little bit, and the maze-like sections can become a little frustrating in a way that I don't think they intended. But all in all, I still find that the game has a perfect cherry on top for that bullet hell strafing, quick run and gun gameplay that the OG Dooms had that they clearly wanted to pull into this game. A surprising twist of events, another homage, if you will, that this game unintentionally, I think, creates is to Doom 3, and that it has a much heavier story focus this time around. Is that a good thing? honestly, I feel indifferent, I guess. There are some really cool cinematic moments and some interesting plot points that get me excited to see how the future DLCs will connect this game to 2016 since it's a prequel. But I can't say that I found everything with it to be mind-blowing, but Doom doesn't need to be more than that. Hype moments in horror kind of go a long way in Doom, and as long as you can keep that using the driving force of this plot to be just Doomslayer doing cool shit, then there's plenty to go around, and I can't complain, honestly. Last but certainly not least, the final gap between this game and its predecessors is the music. Now, I do not intend to discuss any controversies surrounding Mick Gordon. There's plenty of videos discussing that, and I want to judge this game on its own merit. So, if you'd like to look into those sort of things, go check it out. There's a lot of interesting, kind of tragic stuff that happened around that. But I don't intend to do that. I want to just judge what the game presents to me without outside information. That being said, I still can't help but feel Dark Ages' soundtrack lacks an oomph that the previous works had. There's less guttural energy to the music this time around, and it decides to be a little more grand, closer to symphonic metal in aesthetic. While this fits the fantasy energy that Doom the Dark Ages has this time around, I can't help but feel it doesn't give me that "fuck yeah, this is Doom" feeling that Eternal or 2016 did. But I do think that everybody online saying the soundtrack is bad is utterly absurd. The shoes that Finishing Move had to fill this time around were frankly astounding, and the fact that they were able to create something that is still thrilling and high-octane enough to be as passing as it is in my eyes outstanding. It's just hard for me to look at the soundtrack compared to others, and while tracks like Blood Red and Unchained Predator are easily worth holding the Doom name, a whole soundtrack is just not enough. It falls short of what I would want from a modern Doom title. But in hindsight and in retrospect, I think they did the best they could with the circumstances they were given. They were always going to have criticism because it wasn't Nick this time around. But I still find myself yearning for something more. Now, as we approach the end of this review, you may have noticed that by now I talked about gaps between this game and the others quite a bit. And I did that intentionally. I think, and perhaps this will be a controversial take, that in an attempt to recreate classic Doom, it has actually recreated Doom 3. Dark Ages is objectively very different from its predecessors, and this is done intentionally. Similar to Doom 3, Dark Ages has chosen to take risks that don't always pay off in the end, but that's okay, because at its core, Dark Ages still captures that beloved run-and-gun gameplay that Doom enjoyers like myself look forward to with each iteration. Where Doom 3 fell short, I think Dark Ages stayed steadfast and created a unique and singular experience that stands out from the pack of titles, even if it means it sacrificed some things along the way to do so. In the end, the third Doom game in a trilogy is once again the black sheep of the family, the third child that chooses to be different, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It has a different itch to scratch, and while it may not be what everyone was looking for, I believe it makes the game incredibly fun and unique. And I would not be surprised if it ends up being an obsessive cult-following title within the franchise for years to come, which I can easily see myself becoming a part of because of the gameplay loops and everything that it encompasses. I would give Doom the Dark Ages an 8.5 out of 10, and I absolutely am looking forward to all of the crazy shit they're going to do in the DLC, but until that time, I'll enjoy myself attempting Ultra Nightmare runs on occasions, and maybe even streaming them. Speaking of which, obviously it's been a while since I've made a video, but I'm excited to be back, and I hope to start streaming stuff more often. I like this new format for these videos where I'm going to kind of talk over the gameplay and everything, so hope you guys stick around for that, and look forward to everything else that I have coming along. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you all in the next video. Much love, everybody. This is COFY Studios signing out. Peace.